Hello, my name's Duncan and welcome to Back Away from the Donkey or Back to Books. If you hear any noises in the background, that'll be my dog that's doing weird stuff, my Labrador and my Yorkie. Anyway, today I'd like to tell you a little bit of a story because I went down a bit of a rabbit hole. If I take you back to, it would have been probably 1980-ish, I was about 12, 13, and we moved home. And we moved to a little town that had a tiny little library. I've managed to find a picture of it. I think it's how it is now, but I'll put the picture up there. That's how small it was. And in about 6 months, I probably cleared it out of all the books that really interest me. As a big science fiction fan, I found things like Heinlein's Glory Road in there, Z for Zachariah. But after a while, when I started to run out of things to read, I was just thinking, okay, what would interest me? And I discovered a Charles Berlitz book on UFOs, and then one on Atlantis. And as we know, they're all pseudoscience and pick up stuff, and they're just stuff that I would read at the time. But now let's fast forward to 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was in we have a local used furniture shop, and they have a little book section, and I was just sort of having a quick look through there. And in there, I discovered The Mystery of Atlantis and the Bermuda Triangle. So, sorry, I had to pick them up just to have. I thought I'd love to reread them, see what I think of them now with a more skeptical mind. And so I've been working my way through The Mystery of Atlantis, and I've done a little bit of research, and I've been down a little pseudoscience rabbit hole about it. So I thought I'd give you a little bit of background. I've got some notes in front of me, so if I look down occasionally, that's because I'm just checking what I'm saying is correct. But Charles Berlitz was the son of Maximilian Berlitz, and this is the Berlitz language schools, which everybody must have heard about. And Charles Berlitz, from an early age, learnt lots of languages, unsurprisingly, and he worked within the language schools and wrote many, many books on languages. He was a diver, and he was interested in archaeology. And I said in the 70s, he released, late 60s, early 70s, he started to release these books. Now, The Mystery of Atlantis, I've just read, and it's, if you're interested in it, it's quite an interesting book. Yeah, it's pseudoscience, and he seems to throw lots of things at the wall. That uses like a sort of shotgun effect. He throws loads of ideas at the wall and hopes that something sticks. But there are some interesting parts in it. He seems to hang a lot of his ideas about where Atlantis is on a author from the 19th century called Donnelly, who took because one of the first instances of Atlantis being mentioned was Plato. Plato used a story about Atlantis as an allegory about the hubris of big states and, you know, proud states that thought they were bigger than they were. And this allegory, authors in the 19th century decided to start taking it as not an allegory, but as sort of a fact, and started to look at where Atlantis was, which is where Atlantis has sort of come into modern times. People were just searching for this continent. So that is one of Charles Berlitz's main sources, and what he hangs a lot of this book on, the fact that what Plato said was actually true, and not actually just a story made up to represent ideas of his. So he goes through that, and then talks about a lot of the flood myths that have gone through societies, which actually is quite interesting. I don't know enough detail about them because I've not done any side research on them, but there does seem to be lots of flood myths through different cultures that weren't related. And another one of Berlitz's ideas is the fact that everything is, because Atlantis, obviously, he believes it was flooded and taken down, was a big society. He thinks there was land bridges between big continents, between like all across Africa and what have you, which is why you get these same myths, not same, but similar myths throughout different societies. Put it one way, if Charles Berlitz was around now, he would be one of the people on the History Channel talking about ancient astronauts. He really would be. 2 seconds while I just take a sip of drink. And he seems to, I said, hang a lot of his ideas on things. I know I was reading around that he did a second book on Atlantis, which appeared about 84, I think, 1984-ish. And on that one, he tried to link Atlantis with his Bermuda Triangle ideas. The problem I've read about with a lot of his stuff is he sort of ignores sort of natural phenomenon that causes a lot of these issues. And I said, reading the Atlantis book, everything seems to point, because there's sunken cities everywhere. We know there's sunken cities because lots of coastal erosion and towns and that have been found off of Greece and places like that. He joins all this to Atlantis. He never actually outright says everything's Atlantis, but the implication is that anything that's ever unexplained comes down to Atlantis, which is quite strange. Even if there's sort of a natural phenomenon, the fact that certain cultures got bronze before others, oh, that's because of all this, because of Atlantis. And I said he doesn't outright say this, but he sort of implies it. I always find things like books on sort of pseudoscience and all these unexplained mysteries quite interesting, because, you know, like anybody, I'd love to believe that somewhere like Atlantis or unexplored cities existed, but it is very, very unlikely. We would have found something by now. But what always interests me is the ideas that people come up to explain things, to actually join everything up, and what they ignore. And I think this Berlitz book is quite a good example of this. As I said, if you come across a second-hand copy, it's worth a read. One thing I will say is his writing style is very easy. I said he references everything, even if he's only using limited references. But as a thing to read, it is quite enjoyable, quite quick. I said I read this in about 2 to 3 days. It's only 180 pages long. I said I'm probably going to do the Bermuda Triangle in the next couple of weeks, and I may report back on that one as well. But yeah, you could do worse than go into a Charles Berlitz book, but just do it with an open mind, and just remember it is a bunch of pseudoscience, and pardon me, there is nothing really related to it all. So yeah, that's my just quick report on that book. I hope you've enjoyed that, and I will speak to you again soon. Thank you.